Welcome to Life Bursts. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Matt, and today a journey of transformation. Stay tuned.
Yes, welcome to Life Bursts. Thanks for being here with us today. I am Sarah.
And I'm Matt, and in the studio we have Sam. How are you, Sam?
I'm great, thank you. Great. Thanks for having me.
Great that you could join us. So, Sam, we are really interested in hearing your story and your life. Take us right back. Where'd life start out for you?
Started out in the womb, I believe.
Yeah?
Well, my parents are both Lebanese migrants, so they met here. I was born in Sydney, and they were running a very busy restaurant, and I was about 2 months old in what I call my first cell, because there was many after that, but my first cell was a little playpen in the back.
Right.
And my grandmother, my mother's mother, they lived in Adelaide. My uncle flew them all over, and she thought that wasn't a great place to be for a little kid, so she came over and brought me to Adelaide and raised me, her and my grandfather, for 9 months.
Right.
And yeah, it was very hard for my mother to, before the Skype days and the video chat. So it was very hard for her. But looking back, it's what my grandmother thought was going to be best for me. And that actually had a big impact on my life later on.
Right.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy. And I had a little brother. We grew up in Athelston, went to a public primary school, always a good student, I really liked learning. My dad pushed us to be great students and respectful, etc. But I was also the class clown, so I loved getting a laugh. I loved the center of attention, and that caused me to go on a bit of a journey from early teens, and just sort of hung around with 3 different groups in school. The cool kids, inverted commas, because what is really cool. They thought they were cool. People thought they were cool.
Yeah.
I look back now, I thought, what was actually cool about them? Where I used to run a bit of a mark with.
So was your brother also a class clown?
No, my brother is the opposite to me, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, he's more of he would call himself a realist. He's more of a pessimist. I'm more of an optimist. He's more of a, get to know you, then we'll open up type of guy, whereas I'm just open from the very beginning. And that has its positive and negatives as well. So, he used to hate it, but I was great with teachers, even though I mainly I got in trouble for talking too much. Everything else that I didn't really get in trouble for, I was a bit smarter than people that were getting in trouble, like bludgeoning school, smoking on the oval. I never got busted for any of that, except for bludgeoning later on. But my brother wasn't great with the teachers, so they said to him, "Why can't you be more like your brother?"
Right.
And he used to hate it.
Must have made you feel good.
That made me feel great.
Rub it in.
He'll tell me, "Oh, another teacher said this," and I'll just laugh. But, that's how I always thought. My mindset, my attitude was, that teacher's going to help you get the best grades. Why am I going to go out of my way to be rude and disrespectful? People call it teacher's pet, whatever they want to call it. At the end of the day, I'm going to put in the effort and the attitude to help them help me. So that's what my mentality was always. And then I used to hang around the sporty kids because I love playing soccer in particular. And then I used to always hang around the studious or the geeky kids because I knew they were the ones getting the good grades. And so I had this almost a multi-personality life type of just friends with all, helped everyone out. And by the way, I was only 5 foot tall in year 8, curly afro, chubby, one of the only Lebanese kids at school. So it was and I love dancing.
Right.
So that's how I built my name at high school. I got up in front of the assembly on day 1 because I was the only one that went to that school out of all my friends from primary school. I didn't get the zone for their high school.
Okay.
And so I remember saying, who do you want to be, man? At the time they called me Sammy G because they couldn't pronounce my last name. And I just thought, they had a band. So I just got up, 600-700 students. I was a little year 8. I just got up and started dancing. And all these girls, rushed out and started dancing with me. So then I got popular with the girls and a little unpopular with some of the boys because they were just, a bit jealous, I think. But
Okay.
so that's where it started.
And right from the outset, you made your mark.
Yeah.
This is who I am.
Yeah.
In high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody messed with me. This is it.
Yeah, so I mean, there were, a small group of bullies, that used to go out of their way, and but now looking back, and I talk to kids now about it. It's like, it was their stuff, it wasn't my stuff. It was their stuff. Looking back,
That's right.
and so friends with most people, didn't really have enemies, but just impressing the wrong people led me down this path, and yeah, did well at high school. I was sort of dropping my grades in year 11, year 12, because I was like A's and B's. And then I got caught up in, girlfriends and blah, 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 and sort of started dropping. And then teachers, because I built good relationships with the teachers, they sort of pulled me up and said, Sam, look, you're going to fail. And we know you don't want to, pull your head in. So I went to work, man, and I finished my year 12, got into a uni degree in tourism. And then started partying. And I think you have a photo of the early days.
There we go.
Yeah, so that is me 4 months in to, actually a year into my degree, but 4 months into partying. And I mean, the drug scene, the party drug scene is where it was at. And I used to stay up, for days because I loved music, I loved dancing, I loved people. So it just sort of came hand in hand with that. And I lost 33 kilos in about 4 months. And it wasn't on Jenny Craig.
Mm.
It was pretty crazy.
So you kind of you took the whole uni partying thing to just this next level.
Yeah.
This massive, crazy level.
Yeah.
What did your family think?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question.
Tell us more.
Well, funny enough, actually, I'll go back to the family. So my dad was a Muslim
Okay.
and my mum was a Christian, but they didn't practice the religion as such in the home. So we had the best of both worlds. We had Easter and Christmas, and we had Ramadan and the Eids of the Islamic religion.
Okay.
And probably in our teens, we started to identify more with Islam because my cousins were more Muslim than my other cousins were Christian, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But what I called it the no pork Muslim. So it was like we would party, we would drink, we would do this, but we wouldn't eat pork. And so that kept us Muslim. Mm. And there was this whole generation of us, like in Australia and Western worlds, and when I got into uni and, started partying, I did everything pretty, I was always all in or nothing. And so I just took it to another level. I mean, even when I was smoking weed through high school, I would still go and study very hard and hand in my work, and people would be like, yeah, because I never was one of those guys just veg out like a lot of my mates were. I was like, nah, man, I got to either, play sports, be creative, do reading, anything, just get my mind. So I took that into uni as well.
So why did you smoke weed or whatever if you were still focusing on other things? Why did you do that?
Very good question. I listened to a lot of rap music.
Okay.
Right? So there was this part of it that was cool and a bit gangster, and I used to rap. I used to write lyrics and rap, and it just was a part of that. But I knew that that's not what my life was going to be. Even as a young kid, I knew this is not who I wanted to be. It was just something I did, and then that led into alcohol in my later teens. And I remember my dad at my formal, we're going out to the formal, all dressed up. I had a white suit. Everyone else was in black suits. And
I can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Class clown.
Yeah. And my dad said, oh, you can have a few beers tonight. I said, Dad, I don't drink beer. And he looked at me really shocked, like, what do you mean? What do you drink? Like he didn't even know, right? He turned the blind eye a lot, my dad. And I said, I drink scotch. And my dad's not a drinker. I had other parts of my family that were, but my dad wasn't. So he was very shocked. So, yeah. And coming back to the 30 kilos in such a short time, people were a bit shocked. And because, you look, in that photo, I look sick. Mm. But at the time, I just thought I looked good. People that didn't know me thought I just looked good. I was, how to say it without being rude, but basically I was popular with the ladies back then. I danced a lot. I had just chiseled jaw, which I'd never had in my life. I was always a chubby, round head kid. And so my parents were a bit worried. Because I was going to uni and I was working, I was doing all the right things, I sort of hid it, living this double life,
Well, that's a great place to take a break. We're going to come back and hear more of Sam's story right after this.
Welcome back to Life Burst. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Matt. Sam is telling us his story growing up as the life of the party. And that continued into uni, although you were conscious, as we've seen, that it was taking its toll in some ways. So where did life take you from there, Sam?
Yeah, it was taking its toll. I remember partying, and when we used to party for days, right? Like it wasn't just you go out on a night and you come home. We had hotel rooms and we had all these people would chip in for a weekly rental. So it's called a pad. So we'd literally we'd go the next day. And then I remember one time I was at a hotel room for a few weeks and different people were there. And I remember packing my bag. It was Monday morning. It was like 9 o'clock. I'd already been up 2 or 3 days. And the guys that were there obviously were a bit of the heavy nature. Let's just say that. And they're looking at me like, what are you doing, mate? I said, I'm going to uni. And I'll never forget their face. Their face was looking at me like, you've just been partying with us for 3 days, doing all sorts of, drugs. And now you're going to uni? And I remember looking at them, I'm like, yeah, bro, this ain't my life, man. This is just a part of it. Like, this is, because they obviously had chosen this life. They were older guys, and that's the life they had chosen. Okay, no judgment. That's not the life I chose. So I knew it was going to be a part of my life. And probably 3 or 4 years into that, we got in a big rumble in Rundle Mall, so a big fight. It was in the newspapers. A group had jumped me and my cousins and my brother. There was 5 of us against 20, and it was full on. And then newspapers, and then we sought revenge, and it got pretty bad. And I thought, all right, I better just get out of here. I'm getting in trouble. So I moved with my best friend to Melbourne, got our lives a bit straight, started working, and then he moved back to Adelaide. So I moved to Queensland with my mum's twin sister, my auntie and her family. And I put that weight back on within 3 months. She just fed me like my mum did, mate. And I worked hard. My uncle, I basically did an apprenticeship for painting. In 5 months, he injured his foot, so I had to do all his jobs. And so I did like a 4-year apprenticeship in 5 months of painting. So I got my life back on track, came back to Adelaide, started to press into the faith a bit more, praying, didn't drink alcohol. And I'll do this regularly. And then I'd fall back into the, it actually usually would start with weed or drinks.
I wanted to ask before you keep going. You said you did like pretty hard drugs. Why did you keep going? I'm presuming you did like ecstasy and all those types of ones.
Yes.
People say that it's really bad. I haven't done it before, so I have no idea. Say that it's bad.
It is.
And you did it once, and then you just kept going back again. So obviously you didn't experience any type of negative effects of it, besides obviously the weight loss. But did you experience any negative stuff? And why did you keep going?
Mate, you experience negative stuff every time.
Okay.
What goes up must come down. And so it's like a hangover, but times 5 to 10. And it's like that time, like there would be times where you'd be, I don't know if you've ever gotten so drunk, maybe you haven't, where you're just, throwing up and you're like, God, please, I'll never do this again, man. Oh, just help me out of this, right? And then what happens the next week? You're back on it. And so that's what happened. And that's how it captures you. And so you go out and friends, you're like, oh yeah, boom. And you, back in those days, it was like a 5-6 hour high off one pill.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to deal with the 2 or 3 days where you can't eat, your stomach's cramping, and then you do it again and do it again. And what happens then, it starts to leak into your week because you go, oh, I don't want to come down much anymore. So I start earlier.
Yeah.
Then it'll be the Thursday or then Wednesday. All of a sudden it's Wednesday to Sunday. And you're like, oh my gosh. So
when you felt yourself coming off of this high, you would then have to take another pill.
yeah,
so that
or you
wouldn't
go
come
and
off
smoke
the
some
high.
weed, or then you go and drink. You know, you're just
Okay.
always seeking something, so you're not then. You know,
Were you trying to numb something? Like, did something happen and you were trying to numb it?
it's funny that you say that.
Okay.
I never knew. What? Oh well, yeah. So let's go back a little bit. So.
Okay.
Going back to when my grandmother brought me from my mother. Years later, I went to psychologists and I went to some drug rehab stuff to get off some amphetamines and stuff because it got actually worse.
Yeah.
It wasn't just partying anymore. It was like at home. It was chilling with my mates. Then we wouldn't even go out. So it was social to begin with, then becomes together, and then it becomes almost antisocial. Like it takes your life almost. But I went through the psychologist, and the psychologist, started to unpack stuff. And then we realized that there was a sense of abandonment when I was 2 months old. And I've spoken to my mother about this. Love you, Mum. She cried about this when she heard my testimony because she was like, oh my gosh, it's my fault. It's not. They were doing the best they could with what they knew. But my grandmother taking me from my mum as a 2-month-old, I'm like, where's my mum? So there's this, and funny enough, drugs and alcohol is always a mask for pain. There's always trauma. Even if people go, nah, my life's fine. There is always something we're masking. Otherwise, why would we be escaping life? Because that's what it is. If you have a couple drinks with friends and you're just cool, no worries. But when you're excessive, there's always something there. And that's what that was for me. That's what that was. So we didn't recognize that till, 6-7 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, we only recognized that.
Wow.
So,
Powerful.
yeah, it was a long journey.
Yeah,
It was a long journey.
It highlights the impact that even small things can have on bringing trauma to anyone, even at such a young age.
Yeah.
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 So you're at the point of keeping going back to this as you're up to in your story, but a part of you is also still compartmentalizing, saying this is only a part of my life.
Yeah.
So how did you continue to go through that cycle, or what got you out of it? What was next?
Yeah. So it was like that for a while, and I had between the age of year 12 till 5 years ago, I had 23 different jobs I counted.
Wow.
Yeah. And that wasn't like, I only got fired from maybe 4.
How long have you been out of high school, just for people who
Oh,
are
sorry,
watching
I'm
this?
40 now.
Okay.
So turned 40 this year. So what are we talking? 1998, I graduated. So 22 years. Yeah. So 23 jobs in 22 years. And different industries, from painting to labouring to sales and hospitality and different things in sales. And I really felt like I loved what I did in sales because I got to train people, talk to people, and commission and made this money. But then I'll go back to this life and it'll be boom, boom, boom. And I finished my degree. It probably took me an extra 2 years. I took a year off and then, took a couple of subjects. So it probably ended up around 2004 when I finished the degree. And then I went traveling in 2005 and I got this great job with a friend of mine doing sales and marketing for a record label. It was right in my alley, like rappers and, it was great. But then it got me back into that.
Yeah, so that's back into the party
back into
scene.
that party scene.
Yeah.
The drugs, the alcohol. And then my missus, who was with me that whole time, who was also a Christian, and funny, she said something to me back in the earlier. So we used to be like 20 Lebos, all this no pork Muslims. And she would be with me from the, probably 2002, 2003 era. And she'd be one girl with all these guys. And she said to me, Sam, you're not really a Muslim. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, I see you more like a youth pastor, like a youth leader, Christian youth leader. No, I was like, the only thing we knew of Christian youth leaders back in there was Ned Flanders from The Simpsons, right? And you look back and you think they always gave him this bad rap, this real geeky, and so I was like, what are you talking about? Like that was almost like a, I don't know, what's the word?
Insult.
An insult, Anyway, but what I didn't tell you was my grandmother, when I was 2 months old, against my father's will, my father never knew, she was taking me to church every Sunday for like 6 months. And so she planted this seed way back when, and I had no idea. And so back and forth. Then my wife got pregnant. well, my partner at the time got pregnant. She's my wife now. And I was like, oh, man, all right. I have to change my life. I've got kids now, like, you know, and I just thought it would change, right? And so I stopped and I started praying and came back in.
We'll pause the story there.
Perfect time.
Perfect timing, because I figured there's more. So we'll come back and hear the results of Sam's desperate praying right after this here on Life Burst.
This is Life Burst with Matt and Sarah. We're chatting with Sam, and you've just mentioned a wife and children and stuff. So I have to ask the question that I ask everybody who brings this topic up is, how did you meet your now wife?
We met in the club, actually. Mm-hmm. I love dancing, and I was well known in Adelaide in that scene. And a friend of hers I knew, and I saw her with her. She tells it a little differently to me, but you know, mm-hmm. She reckons I went up to her and I was like, and she was just thinking, who is this guy? So I must have been like, you know, probably off my head. Thought I was like, I don't know.
The best thing in the world.
Yeah, you know. Yeah. Anyway, but respectfully, you know, I was like, hey, you know, and she was just like, whatever. And then a few months later, I saw them again, and I brought over like a tray of drinks, and you know, and then we started talking, and then we started dancing, and then, yeah, that was I think 2002, 2003. So I was young. I think I was like 21. She was like 17. And we just built friendship over that.
Why was she in a club if she was 17?
Ooh. Hey, that's not for me. You gotta interview her. Back in the day when it was easy to get fake ID, you know, you used to rub. Anyway, that's a whole nother topic. Yeah. Whole nother topic. And then, yeah, so she was going through some of her own stuff, hard stuff. Her parents had separated, not nicely either. So she was living with her friends at the time. And then we sort of reconnected with her dad, and she started seeing him again, and then started living with him. And then we went, you know, back and forth. Then we moved in together in, I think, 2005. And then we had our first daughter, first child in 2007. And I remember I was doing martial arts then. I went to Indonesia for a martial arts tournament. And I was trying to get healthy and fit, and again, praying, you know, Allah trying to help me. And then I'd come back and, you know, fall again. And I remember the one night she was upstairs with the baby, and I had friends over, and we were like getting loose, man. And I remember she called me up, and I was really annoyed about it. Like, oh, just let me party. And then I went up, and she's with the baby, like looking at me like, what are you doing? And I just remember going, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And so then there was this cycle again, and this cycle again. But the problem was, the worst drug actually came in around then. So this was no longer a party drug. This was a substance that we'd used for ages, but now it changed form, and so now it was being smoked instead of just taken orally. And that then actually got me, you know, and I'd be up and down. I'd, you know, trying to save for a house, and then, you know, spent the deposit, you know. Then I'd get a really good job and work really well, but then I'd get bored and leave. But I do really well at the job, you know, helping the unemployed. So that's right. I started questioning, you know, my purpose. What am I doing? Just going sales and painting. I do painting work. So I really want to help people. How do I take my skills and turn it into my purpose? I'm going to work with the unemployed, you know, as I'm great with people. I'm good at sales. And I remember in the interview, it was great. Interviewed really well. And then I'm chasing the guy up, because they wanted somebody who already knew the market, who already knew the game, wasn't new. But I was just determined to get that job. And I said, mate, I'll show you I'm the best. And then he gave me a chance, and I just, you know, smashed my KPIs and did great things, but was doing that at the same time. Mm-hmm. And then it started flowing into my work week. You know, I remember the first time I did it on a Tuesday day. Whereas a few years before that, a friend of mine, we jumped in the car and we thought we're just going to go have some weed. You know, it was during the day. It was like a weekday morning. Like it wasn't even afternoon. Mm-hmm. I said, hey, bro, what's going on? He's like, hey, man, let's go for a smoke. I said, yeah, killer. Jumped in the car, and he pulled out the other utensil. And I was like, what the heck? I'm not doing that. You know, so I hated it in the beginning. And then again, just one little, and then it was like, and like I do everything, I go and get to have for free. I hate paying for things like that. So I would get and, you know, give and have for free, essentially. Mm-hmm. And then I had my second son. We actually moved to Queensland and ran a sales company in Queensland, my cousin, my brother and I, and we were making really good money. It was great, but just long hours. My wife was by herself with the child. Then she got pregnant again, said she wanted to move back to Adelaide. I tried to make it work long distance. It wasn't really working, so we moved back to Adelaide. And there was just this up and down. Like she just, a miracle. God sent me an angel, mate. She just stayed strong, and it was hurting her, and she kept, trying to take me places to help me. And then I sort of probably hit rock bottom around 2011, 2012. My parents had just divorced as well. And so I went real downhill. Just wasn't doing great mentally. And wasn't really, before I was very functional, right? You wouldn't have been able to tell. People that know the game, they could probably tell, but everybody else, that's just Sam. Because the personality's high up anyway, but they wouldn't see the crashes and the lows and the sleeping in till 3 o'clock in the afternoon and lazy and lethargic and can't be bothered and, short switch and short fuse. And so there would just be this cycle. And then I'd go good for 2, 3, 4 months and then come back. And then, and my wife could tell just by looking at me, you've done it again. And I'm like, no. And then I'd lie. The lying is what hurt the most, I think. Lying to the person you love because you're so, what's the word? Just you just feel so bad that you've broken their trust and you've done it again. And you're like, oh, this is the last time. And she must have heard that 100 times, And then I hooked up a really great job with Commonwealth Bank, traveling Australia, teaching kids about money. And the funny thing was I wasn't great with money. And my mates would say, how are you going to teach them about money? And I said, mate, I'm the best person to teach them because I've done everything wrong with money. And now here's a great little script to teach them how to do the right things. And now as a part of that, you've got to walk the talk. So if I'm teaching you how to do this and this, I've got to start doing it. So I started doing that, started getting my life back on track. Actually, before that, I started working in the gym and as a sales consultant. And that started to help me because I started training. And it was the first time I'd been really consistent eating, training, right? And then hired somebody and they were in from that old life as well. And just one key word and it was like, back again. And unfortunately I lost that job because of things that I'd done indirectly due to the probably side effects of, the lethargic, not listening and just not following up stuff. And so unfortunately left that job and got this great job and then it snuck back in again. And I was like, I can't believe this is back. And I got the best job I've ever had. Family's good, life is good, health is good. And here it is again. And so,
was it like a voice in your head that tells you that you need to do it or that life would be better if you did it? How does it sneak back in?
That's a good point.
For people who might be listening who are being like, yes, this is my life. Yeah. Help me, Sam. How did you get out? What is it?
So how did I get out?
No, is it a voice? Because I know that you're going to get to that point eventually.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're out of it.
Yeah.
But but not to give away too much. But was it a voice? Was it a feeling? What was it?
I think it was a feeling. And it could have probably been a feeling because I still had mates in that game and I liked going and seeing them and I just liked the feeling that it gave me. You got adult viewers on this or kids or adult?
Yeah,
right? All sorts.
Everybody.
Okay. So there's this crazy stat and I don't tell it a lot, but I just want people to understand it, is sex releases about 400 endorphins in the brain and the body, right? Mm-hmm. It feels good, yep. Cocaine, about 700. Wow. And then smoking methamphetamine, 1,300. Wow. So it's triple, right? But the problem is, the more you do it, the less, and then your body stops producing the endorphins. So you got to have more and more, but it has less effect. So it's like, oh, yeah. And so what would happen is I'd go without and then I'd hit it. I'd feel great. And then I'd get really productive. This was the difference. You see, from when I was young, I used to smoke and then get productive. Same thing happened. When I used to rap, we used to do it and we'd write the best songs, hours and hours. So in my mind, there was a link between that and productivity, between that and creativity. So perhaps there was this voice saying, oh, you're not good enough without it. And so thinking back, there's a great question. Never really thought about it. Was that a voice? Maybe it was. It was like, I'll get to this point and then self-sabotage. It was like, oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, now I feel good. Yeah. But it was actually causing more hurt and more pain. And
well, there's something to think about when you finish the interview then.
Yeah. 100%,
Yeah.
100%.
Anyway,
And
this
so,
is Life Birth. We'll be back
Yeah.
with more of the story straight after this.
This is Life Burst with Sarah and Matt. We're chatting to Sam. Sam, your life is on this cycle. It's in some ways spiraling. It sounds like it's going to take something pretty big to shake you out of this. So where did you go from here?
Mate, it was spiraling, and obviously in such short segments, you don't delve into everything, but just quickly, the police and me, multiple arrests throughout, the people I was hanging around, fights, a lot of license car traffic violations. So there was all that in there as well, right?
Wow. I just want to take a moment. Your wife, she's amazing.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Louise,
you are amazing.
yeah,
Your love for this man is amazing.
it is.
I just wanted to really say that to her.
Thank you. It's funny, when I've told my story a few times at different churches, women have gone, there's 2 miracles here. Your wife is one of them. I'm like, yeah, amen to that. Yeah. It's so good. And so, so at the time, just
In and out with the cops.
license disqualifications. Like, I'll tell you the number and it will blow your mind. Like, some people can't even believe it, but there were 16 license disqualifications in, period of 18 years. So it's crazy. And then one day I told my wife I was probably working or somewhere, but I wasn't. I was at my mate's house doing the wrong thing. And my father came and picked up my kids to go and buy some budgies. And my wife rang me. She's like, babe, I got this bad feeling, blah, blah. Now, normally I'd say, oh, babe, don't worry about it. Like, pardon me, but that day, I was like, no worries. She wanted me to go with them. Where I wasn't near where they were. So I had to get dropped off somewhere, bus to there, then get them to pick me up. So it was a bit of effort. But for some reason, I felt pushed to say yes, right? Well, normally I wouldn't have, because I was having a good time where I was. And I was like, no worries. So I got there, dropped me off, boom. My dad and the kids picked me up. And we went up to this place, bought some budgies. I'm putting him in the boot, in the cage. And my son, he was like 7 at the time, he's jumped in the back seat. I'm on the phone. I can't remember who to. It'd be great if I could remember who it was to. But I was on the phone and he jumped in the back seat and then sat in the front. Now, I would never let that happen. But for some reason, now I know the Holy Spirit, but at the time I had no idea. I just let him. And I sat in the back next to my daughter. And then next minute, I wake up. We've had an accident. There's a 4-wheel drive in my door. It's smashed my entire door. It's pushed the door into my ribs. I can't breathe. Big 4-wheel drive, bull bar. My daughter's like crying. My son's crying. I'm looking at my dad like, what the heck's happened? And he's not in a great state. They've had divorce. He was, And I was just like, what? But I couldn't breathe. I remember, that's the last thing I remember, ambulance coming in to get me out. I don't even know how they got me out. Sat me, boom, went back to hospital. Now, the crazy thing about that was my grandmother had died in 2010, about 2 months after my grandfather. And it was a very hard time for me. They were like my parents. That was her birthday on that day. So guardian angels, if you don't believe in them, I'm telling you right now, there was one right there on that day. She saved my son's life, because if he was in the back seat, he would not be with us today. There's no way. But I took the brunt of the accident. No one else was really injured. And so I was in hospital for 2 weeks and just thinking, my wife said, if this doesn't change you, I don't know what's going to. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was thinking about it, and then got out and got back on it. And it was helping me deal with stuff, I guess. I don't know. And I was off work for like 6-7 weeks. And then I got back into work and it just was never the same. Christmas holidays, boom. And then we went away on a trip for work. And I took my family with me. cheap accommodation, this, that. And then I brought it with me on the trip. And we got in a bit of an argument, and it wasn't a great trip. Like, it wasn't the trip that I planned. And when we came back, I think the day we got back, we put the kids, boom, police knock on my door, and they're taking me to the station for some license stuff. And I thought, what the heck are you doing, bro? Like, really? Still? And so, when I came back, I thought, I've got to make a change. And Louise took it to God. She'd never taken it to God. She'd always gone to people to help me. But that day she prayed, she said, God, I've never brought it to you. I'm bringing Sam to you. Help me. Show me. And he gave her this idea to find somebody that I could connect with. So she started looking up ex-gangsters turned Christian. And she found this guy, shout out Tony Hong, in New South Wales. He was a Vietnamese gangster turned pastor. Not even a Christian, turned a pastor. And he had this program called Chasing the Dragon, which was helping people get off the drugs. And I got home from work this day, and I was clean at this time, about 2 weeks. And she said, you're going to Sydney. I've talked to the guy. He's expecting you. All right. My cousin lived in Sydney. My cousin was like a spiritual best friend. He was a Muslim. He changed his life. And we were always on the phone, hours, you know. And I was trying to be a good Muslim, like, throughout this whole time. I was trying to connect to Allah. I was trying, but through my works, right? And I went there, and my cousin's like, what are you doing going to see a Christian guy, you know? And I said, bro, he's going to help me get off the drugs and actually going to strengthen my faith. Nowhere did I ever think I was going to become a Christian. That was not in my books, on my radar at all. Rocked up to this church, about 150 people. I came there, he's nice in a suit. You could see some tats hanging out, but good, nice guy. Hey, mate, cool. And I sat at the front of the church. Now, nobody ever sits in the front except for the band, and you know why. Like, I sat right in the front. He starts praying and talking about, you know, drugs in the community, and not really what I thought he was going to talk about. I was like, oh, cool, all right. They start praying, so I bow my head respectfully. Yeah. And then they said this. He said, who here wants to be helped? Raise your hand. I thought, oh, that must be for me. Is that Mike? Okay. So I put my hand up. Guy comes over, taps me on the shoulder. He's like, hey, man, come to the front. I said, what for? He said, oh, we're going to help you. I said, can't you help me right here, man? I don't want to get up in front of all these people. He goes, no, come to the front. I was like, far out. Respectfully, I go to the front. Mm-hmm. 3 people come next to me, big Samoan and 2 young girls. And I could tell they were all on the same journey as me, but I just presented it much better. By looking at them, you saw they were in the darkness that I was, but you couldn't tell on me, right? Mm-hmm. At that time, I was also 2 weeks clean. I hadn't touched that for 2 weeks. And then they start praying in tongues, and I'm like, whoa. And this feeling came over me. It's like, just, whoa, like I'm getting goosebumps telling you right now. And he put his hand on my shoulder. He said, Sam, Jesus forgives you. And I just started crying uncontrollably. Now, I'm a crier, don't get me wrong, but never like that. Like, just like I could have filled a bucket. It was just like, and I was trying to control it, like, try and be a man, you know, like, and he was like, it's all right. Like, look at that. And he went to the guy next to me, and the guy next to me, big dude, man, just broke down. And we looked at each other, and I just did what came naturally. I hugged him, and we started crying together. It was beautiful, right? Mm. And then anyway, the service sort of finished. We sat down. Everyone's trying to look at me like, oh, good on you. And I'm like trying to not get eye contact. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? And these guys came up in the end. Oh, man, that was great. The Holy Spirit. I said, whoa, I'm a Muslim. And they're like, all right, man, no worries. But I'm just letting you know that doesn't happen to everybody. Okay, no worries. So we went out for lunch. And as we're going out for lunch, he went straight in. There was an awkward silence for about 2 minutes. But then he went straight in. Sam, this is why this is wrong. This is why this is wrong. The Christian business. And he started telling me the Christian message. Just start preaching straight away. In my head, I'm like, man, this guy's got some kahunas. He's just telling me what's wrong with my religion straight away. So in my head, I start praying. I said, God, you better show me a sign right now what this man is saying is true, because I'm getting, my ego, my flesh is getting angry. And I literally finished praying it in my head, and I looked at him, and I look up. We come over a hill. I'll never forget it. In the distance, there's 3 buildings. And on one building, massive white writing, Jesus.
What even?
And I went, that doesn't count. So I reject it. Right. I'm like, what the heck? And I started thinking, He set me up. He brought me this way. What? Right? Then we go and we have lunch and we meet these other guys and they've all got off the drugs all through Jesus. I met a Buddhist, an African Muslim, all these other guys. And I was like, whatever, man. Like, that's cool. That's great. Good on you. I'm going to do it through Islam. Like, that's, no worries. We left. And he was cool. Like, he wasn't trying to force anything. No worries. I rang my wife, told her what happened. She was like, oh my gosh, buzzing out. I rang another mate of mine who used to party with me and was born again. Who actually, and I forgot to tell you, I sent my kids to a Christian school by this time because I just thought I liked the values, the morals, right? And they used to say to me, Dad, what are your religion? I said, we're the same God, blah, 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 right? I used to go there, take them to church a couple of times. My mate would have his hands up. And I'd be looking at him like, what is this guy doing? I rang him and I said, bro, this is what happened. He said, mate, it's the Holy Spirit, man. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. I told my cousin when he came and picked me up what happened. And he was literally like, what? And we started watching all these beautiful videos of people coming to Islam. And it was beautiful. Like, I was like, wow. But somewhere in my heart was still like, Jesus. And I couldn't shake it. I came back to Adelaide. I went to this, I'm running sessions for schools, right? And I'm at this school, predominantly Muslim, English as a second language. And I finish and I'm packing up. It's a big room. And something draws my attention to the corner of the room. It's like 14 meters away. Like, it's not close. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, what is that? And I just
Yay! Stopping. Yes. I love this. We'll be back with more Life First straight after this. What's in the corner? So what was in the corner, Sam?
It was Jesus on a card.
Right.
I know.
Like 14 meters across the
Yes.
room, you could see a card that had Jesus on it.
I don't know what drew me to it.
What?
I have no idea. And I'm talking a card like this big, like a card.
Wow.
You know how they give it like funerals and that? It was like that. And it was Jesus. And I was like, what the heck?
Out of everything you could have seen in the room, I was expecting it to be something much bigger. That's why I had my
know.
arms up. But
It was like
okay.
tiny. And I was like, that's strange. And then we went to Coorong bookshop to get my daughter a book because she's an avid reader. And I just didn't like the selection of books that she was reading. And I was like, let's go there. I went there. Kids went in. I left my wallet in the car, came back, grabbed my wallet, came back in, looked, and there's I don't know if you've been to the Coorong, but there's a table and it has like a book of the week displayed on there.
Coorong is a Christian bookstore.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
And the book of the week was Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus.
Right.
And I was just like, oh my gosh. And so obviously I bought it. Now I've rejected God 2 or 3 times. And now I'm like, okay. So I pick up this book, and this book is about a journey of a guy way more Muslim than me, trying to disprove Christianity. And he's such a great writer, Nabil Qureshi. He's no longer with us. Rest in peace, brother. And it just, wow. I was just like, oh my gosh. And I was going on this journey with him, and he was opening up to what my life was. And about a week later, the pastor from Sydney rang me and said, hey, Sam, how's everything going? What's going on? I said, man, you don't believe this. And I told him the story, and I'm reading the book, and it's crazy. And he's like, great, man, I'm coming to plant a church, part of Potter's House at Woodville on Friday if you want to come. I said, all right. And I went there, and that night I cried again. I gave my life to Christ that night. I just knew in front of my family. Came home, I prayed. I said, Lord, if this is who you are, Jesus, if you are the Son, and you are who you say you are, then you better take this from me right now. I don't want to take it like an alcoholic who's not drinking. I want it like it was never a part of my life, only the memories and the lessons. You know, I don't want to have to be like, oh, it's through my strength. And I felt this purple cloud is how I explain it, being lifted from me. Like, and I was like, look, goosebumps. I was like, whoa. And I laid in bed. I said, babe, I'm clean, man. And she was like, yeah. Because she'd heard it 100 times.
Yeah.
And every day, I'd come home from work, every day. She was just like, my gosh, it's actually true. I said, I told you. It was gone. Not through my strength, through his. I handed it all over to him. Life was perfect after then. No, it was not. I got hit and run by a car on a push bike. I lost my license again because of stuff that happened before. And I lost my job, which was great. I loved that job. And then I lost my best friend to suicide. And all these things hit me in about 6 months of being a Christian. And I was like, God, what's happening? Are you serious? The old me would have gone to my old vices, would have gone to the weed first, would have gone to the alcohol, would have gone to the drugs. The new me went to prayer, went to the word, went to exercise. They were my new vices. prayer, the word, exercise. And I'd be in the word. I'd be riding my bike and I'd have the Bible app. You know, shout out to you, Bible app. The guy reading the Bible in my ear, and I'd get to places and laugh at myself like, what are you listening to? And I had the spiritual mentor I went and met with, and I'd have breakfast with. And one day I heard God tell me, I was riding my bike, about to ride my bike, and I heard God audibly, first time, catch the bus. I was like, what? And it wasn't my voice, wasn't my thought. It was external, internal, catch the bus. And I was like, okay. I put my bike down, went and caught the bus. Got to Norwood, eating breakfast, finished. Now, the night before, I was praying about heaven and hell. I was like, you know, Lord, yeah, heaven, hell, like, you know, I love what you've done in my life, but, you know, is it? And finished breakfast, bus stops across the road, and I just heard the voice again, walk. No worries. This time I didn't question it because I already heard it. So I started walking up the parade. Boom, felt him lead me to the next bus stop. Sat at the next bus stop. Within 30 seconds, I kid you not, this dude on permanent crutches, my age, about 30, mid-30s, dark brother, brown brother, and he sat next to me. I said, oh, man, sorry to hear, like, what's happened? He's like, oh, that's okay, mate, you know. I got hit by a car, hit and run. I didn't realise it was when he was like 12 and he was left for dead. And he's been like, not paraplegic, but permanently disabled since. I said, man, I'm so sorry to hear that, you know. And he said, that's okay, brother, because it's real. I was like, what did he say? Sorry, man, what did you say? He said, it's real. I said, what's real, man? He said, heaven. God showed me heaven, and it's real. Wow. And I was like, what the heck are you talking about? Why would you just tell me that randomly? I asked nothing about it. So we start talking. He starts telling me his life, and I'm like, oh my gosh, bro, I need to get baptized. And I was at Edge Church at the time. Shout out to Edge Church. I said, guys, I need to get baptized. Like, you know, I didn't go out and tell everybody, hey, everybody, I'm a Christian. I was just slowly, the closest people to me knew, and they saw the fruit. And I said, I need to get baptized. I said, like, just wait, just come and have a look at the baptism and then, you know, see what you think and then get baptized in around June. I said, no worries. Now, June has a crazy part in my life. It was like all these months in June, which we can't get into today, but it was just, and God knows I love big signs. Like, that's how he's made me, okay? June comes, I get cold feet. I go, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm getting baptized. No, God, you need to show me a sign right now. And God never shows you signs when you need to. He shows you when he wants to. And that week, Friday night before baptism, coming home, bumper to bumper traffic, a car pulls out in front of me, and on the whole back window, Mark 16:16, for he who believes and is baptized shall be saved.
Wow, that's incredible.
Since then, I got baptized. Now I'm a youth leader up in the hills. I've run my own business, running workshops for schools, high schools all across the state. You probably have a photo up there somewhere. Yep. So that's me and my pastor, Dave Shepherd at Hills Baptist, and we're there at Concordia. And my wife was right all of those years ago, prophesying that you are not a Muslim, you are a youth leader.
Wow. And
here we are, 20 years later. It's what God's plans are.
Well, thank you, Sam.
That's an incredible story.
Yeah. Wow.
A story of transformation in so many ways.
By the way, I don't do any drugs, alcohol, or smoke. Yes, just in case you're wondering.
Yeah. Well,
wow. It left you.
It did.
It left you.
It did.
Well, really did.
Thank you for giving us that insight into your story. We could talk for hours.
I know.
I reckon there's a lot of more stories there that you couldn't share. But thank you for coming in today. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
This has been Life Burst. You can catch up with us wherever you get your podcasts from and on Facebook, YouTube, community TV, and radio. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Matt. Thanks again for joining us today.
Life Bursts is hosted by Matthew Karat and Sarah Freeman, with production by Reese Jarrett and Kay Hoshro Ozadigan. For more episodes of Life Bursts, go to rawcut.com.au. This is a RawCut production.